Why hello there, this is your good Thomas Friend 74. Now I've already made a video about this years ago about the road section. However, nowadays that now I know much about this, I want to go and redo that video and explain everything in proper detailing what you need to know about the series and how it was. Let's first start off with the ones that we are familiar with. And that is a full straight road piece, a half straight road piece, and a curve road piece. Now, these are the ones that we've always seen a lot and are familiar with. Of course, this series actually started off from Play-Rail, as of course from the Tomy series, which are very common. To find the Tomy versions are very common, but these are the more obscure Trackmaster ones. And of course, these are originating from Hit Toys. Hit Toys versions are the only ones that exist, and they're all of them are dated of 2006. Well, of course, they were released in 2007. That's when the brand started releasing. 2006 is when their production was made. Okay, so back to Tomy. As they started with this, they usually have a clip system, which I will show. But this is the only. I have the Thomas and Terrence Deluxe action set to show. But it started off with this. And it has this clip connector right here. As you can see, clip connectors will connect to there. Slide that in, and that clip right there, this one, will fit perfectly into the slot here, which is why they have an access hole in it. Of course, for toys, they went with the same connectors as Trackmaster. Of course, they're a little bit spread apart to differentiate from the road section. Tomy made a lot of this back in the day. And they also had some very nice intersections. There's a 3-way intersection and a 4-way intersection, with many road destinations that they pumped out with back in the day. And that was actually very fascinating for Tomy to do that. And since Tomy also made the, Player as well, made the road vehicles, releasing them in this series also boosted a lot, and making also more of those accessories as well. There's also the ramps, which I'll get to in a bit. And after Tomy stopped production of this in 2006, the series was moved to Trackmaster, albeit with only a few things. The only major road sections are these. There are no intersections, and also no 1/4-inch straight track. Play-Rail did make those. So none of those existed in this. These are the major ones. So let's first take a look at each of these carefully. This is, of course, the first one, which is the half-straight road pieces, which comes into those road vehicles, which are Birdie, Bulgy, Madge, Terrence, Caroline, Elizabeth, Jack, Alfie, and Ned. Lorry 1 was already discontinued. So, it started off with this. This is what you always give in those packs. Always a road section, of course with some cargo. And of course you can see that's the bottom underneath with these little divots right there. Of course, it's just meant for that. And the detailing is actually pretty nice. Still keeping the gray concrete aspect of the roads. But when we get to the curve, if you look carefully, you can even see some cracks. And of course, that does happen to the concrete roads. They do tend to crack like that. The straight track is no different. You can even see there's some bit of uneven, straight concrete detailing on this, and still has the cracks in it. But now that I'm feeling this actually has a different feel to this. I can just feel it seems a tad bit softer than this. This seems to be a lot more solid, and this as well. But this seems to be a tad softer. Not flimsy, but it's a tad softer. I think Tomy also had this up as well as one of their road sections as well. So that is about the majority of what we see here. There were some packs with Tomy, Trackmaster, released, but it wasn't like Tomy, where these have their own individual packs. They weren't. In fact, the only pack Trackmaster ever made for these is the sort of roadway pack, which actually has curves and full straights. Half straights were mainly in the road vehicles, while these were in the majority of the road sets. There was also the pack of track it was released in, and a few other sets that these were released. But that was it. It was extremely like a short-lived product, as you can know by the amount what was happening. But we get to the other parts of this. This is when they got very sporadic with all this. Now, what you're seeing here is the elusive, very rare, maybe hard to find, Trackmaster Level Crossing. It was also made for the road section as well. Now, if we would have turned this around, it actually has the right settings of a level crossing, as it has the gates, as a typical level crossing. And it has the signs of red telling the vehicles to stop, but sadly it doesn't have that on the other side of the gates, as you can see. That's the one minor nitpick. And this button you see here, if you were to press that, the gates move to the other side for the trains to stop and the cars to go. And of course, Tomy also made this with the Elsbridge crossing, and what It Toys did to this is no different. So, what will happen is that when a road vehicle comes, I only have Madge to demonstrate this, but when a road vehicle goes on here, it comes into one of this, it's slanted downwards, but the rear wheel is actually raised up. It's actually floating off the ground because of this right here at the edge is raised a bit. And it's the reason because of this raised part here. Most of these road vehicles have this. Raises it up so it doesn't strain the motor. And the closed circuit, press the button, it goes on its way. So that's very interesting. Okay, so that was actually very nice for this level crossing. So definitely worthwhile to have. Well, here's the thing. The level crossing was only released in 2 sets, specifically. And that is the Solar Friends Road and Rail set and the Super Sodor Adventure set. Which were indeed very big sets and had the level crossing in both of those sets. But the major net about those 2 sets is that both of them were only released in Europe. Yeah, that's why this is very hard to find, because it was only ever released in Europe in those 2 sets. But when we get to the next item here, it's just no different. This what you see here is indeed the ramp I was talking about. How Tomy made the ramps, well, Hit Toys also did the same. And this is a very long piece. When we take a look around this one, so you could see. On both sides, it has these ridges right here. The Tomy version also had this. Of course, leads to vehicles to go to the next level. And of course, still works the same as the connections, as you can see. And the pillars they use are these. These are the pillars that It Toys made. Well, even though it is a pillar for the road section, of course it's actually a hybrid of rail and road, as you've seen many times. Of course, Hit Toys did made a version of this only made for rails, but I think they should have kept with this instead, because it works for both rails and road. It's just the rails are a little bit shorter in the length, and the road section fills in the void perfectly all the way. And it also has the slots for the bridge garters to fit in. So they want to keep that consistent. And this does measure up to 4 inches, which does work for things to go underneath. It's actually high enough for that to work. So that's it for that. Now, this one's also very tricky to get as well, because this was only released in the Super Solar Adventure set. Only had this. Of course, they had 2. And as I mentioned before, it was only released in Europe. So it's also a problem for finding this ramp and the level crossing, as they were both only released in Europe. So for US, Canada, and Australia, we only had these. Europe has this and this as well along with. However, it's still a very fascinating series of road section, and I'm glad Hit Toys decided to also proceed on with the road section, even up to a little bit before Fisher-Price and Mattel eventually have ditched the series completely, and as well as Pyra also had to do the same as well. And there's one layout I could make that fits on this table. Okay, so this is all I can fit on this table. This is not all the road section. I have a little bit left right there. But that's all I have left. I will show the level crossing with the trains going on when I put this down on the floor. But I want to put this right here because I want to show a little bit of a demo of what happens. Of course, I only have Madge. I do have Kevin and Terrence. But the problem is with these two, they do not have the extra tab right there, the extra risen part on these two. As you can see, they don't exist there. Oliver right here, it's not motorized. I also have Nelson, which also isn't motorized. So yeah, Terrence and Kevin won't work on this, so only Madge can. But this will demonstrate the entirety of the road section of how Hit Toys made. So, let's give it a shot. Okay, now that Madge stops at the level crossing, she stops perfectly right there. And of course, as per usual, the button releases her. If you had to let the engines go, you have to press the button. Because it's always going to stop regardless. it's ramped up for the engine to go through. The magic keeps doing that. This part here is a little bit raised up, as you can obviously see. It's probably done that way for the vehicles to get through easily. And this part here is also reused for the Nelson at the Quarry destination, done for the same reason. So the engine just goes up and down, as you can see a little bit right here. The road vehicles do the same too. It's just how it was designed, and especially the Tomy version as well. How I got all this was actually very fascinating. It was a lot I found on eBay with a road section. I did make, remember that old video that I made when I took a look at this? Well, that was what the entire thing I got, was that exact layout. That was all the pieces I got from that lot. I paid $20 for this from someone from the US, and I was actually very fascinated that I finally got more of the road section. I did have some of the Trackmaster road section way back then when I got some of these. When I got Madge and Kevin, this was all I had. Yeah, I only had 4 half-inch road pieces. That was it. But with that extra lots I got 2 more of these, 4 of these, 5 of this, 1 of this, and 2 ramps to fully complete everything. And I said, okay, that is definitely something I want. And I actually got that from Christmas of 2017. And I had a lot of fun with this. It was something that I desperately just needed. Either getting the Tomy version or the Trackmaster version, it just doesn't matter. So yeah, if you live in US, Canada, and Australia, you only have this section. But you live in Europe, you got all of this. Well, that's it. Gonna wrap up for this video of my redo version of the road section. So, thank you all for watching!